Is your HOA always this fair, or does your porch camera click awake just in time to catch a notice that says escalated enforcement? Police option slapped on your front door. Our president. Sandra, phone up, fake concern voice went live on the sidewalk and hinted she might have to call the cops on my perfectly calm wife. Minutes later, red and blue washed over our quiet cul-de-sac radios clicking while my wife set a thick evidence binder and a federal badge on the kitchen table. Next week, the clubhouse was packed, the board whisper quiet, and that crumpled notice became Exhibit A for how this fight really started. The first thing I saw wasn't our front door, it was the paper taped across it. Bright, white, thick stalk stuck on crooked right over the peephole. The tape was stretched so tight it made a little crease through the middle like the page had been angry when it went on. Across the top in all caps, Woodvale Homeowners Association escalated enforcement. Police option. I froze halfway up the path. The wind came off Maple Ridge Drive, cool and dry, making the bottom edge of the notice flutter against the dark blue paint. Behind me, the porch camera gave a soft click as it woke up and tracked my movement. Jack Clare called from inside. I heard the deadbolt slide. "That you—" "Yeah," I said. Eyes locked on the words. "We got mail. On the wrong side of the door." She opened it just enough to lean out. The smell of coffee and laundry detergent spilled into the fall air. "What in the world?" she breathed. I peeled one corner of the tape back and eased the notice down so we could read it. The page was heavy glossy. Someone had really wanted this to feel official. There was a citation block in the middle dense text per HOA bylaw, C12-07 resident at Lot 44, is in continued non-compliance regarding community disturbance. Further failure to comply may result in police involvement at the discretion of the association. Claire's name was typed under mine. They'd spelled it right this time. I felt my jaw set. "Community disturbance," I said. "That's new?" She watched my face instead of the paper. "I haven't had anyone over. No loud music, no parties, unless the dishwasher counts as a riot." Down at the end of the driveway, a figure shifted, a pink blazer against gray pavement. Sandra Bishop was standing near the sidewalk, cell phone in hand, pretending to scroll. Even from here, I could see the tight, pleased line of her mouth. The porch camera clicked again, lens twitching in her direction. She looked up at it, then at us, like she knew exactly where every eye in the neighborhood was. "Of course," I muttered. She didn't even bother to walk away. Claire stepped out beside me, bare feet on the concrete. "Does it say what we supposedly did?" I scanned lower. There was a bullet point, vague as smoke. Incident type: excessive domestic disturbance, ongoing, observed by HOA president. No date, no time, no details. "Nothing you can measure," I said. "That's the point." Claire's fingers brushed the edge of the paper. The wind tugged at it, making the tape crinkle softly. "She's testing limits," she said quietly. "Which limits?" I asked. "Ours," Claire replied, "and the cops. She wants to see who flinches first." I folded the notice once and tucked it under my arm. "Well, it's not going back on the door." As I stepped off the porch, Sandra straightened up at the curb like she'd been waiting for her cue. Her heels clicked against the sidewalk when she started toward us. "Afternoon, Jack," she called. Her voice had that chipper tone people use right before they hand you a bill. "Notice clear enough for you, Crystal," I said. "I just can't tell if this is a letter or a threat." She laughed lightly. "Oh, don't be dramatic. It's simply an escalation notice. You've been ignoring the prior ones." "What prior ones?" I asked. "We got a friendly reminder last month about general noise awareness, if that's what you mean." Her eyes flicked past me to Claire. "Your wife knows what she did." Claire's posture didn't change, but I felt something go cold behind my ribs. "Enlighten me," I said. "What exactly did my wife do that justifies this?" I tapped the page. Police option language. Sandra sighed as if I were a slow student. "Multiple neighbors have reported raised voices and unsettling behavior at your property. I have an obligation to maintain community standards. We're a quiet subdivision." "Remember raised voices?" I said. "You mean when the Broncos were in overtime?" She smiled thinly. "See, Even you admit it. Claire spoke up then, calm and even. We've never had a visit from the police, Sandra. Not once in 3 years. If someone had an issue, they could have knocked on our door. Sandra's eyes narrowed. Some residents don't feel safe doing that. Safe from what I asked. From whatever's going on in there, she said, tilting her chin toward our house. Look, this doesn't have to be complicated. You can acknowledge the disturbance, commit to behavioral changes, and we'll note it as resolved. Behavioral changes, I repeated. That's a bold phrase for someone holding a piece of paper and a title. The porch camera clicked again. Sandra glanced up at it and a flash of irritation broke through the polite mask. Next step involves law enforcement, she said. This time her voice dropped just for us. I'd hate to have to make that call. You wrote it on the door, I said. I assumed you'd be proud of it. Her smile thinned further. Stage 3. Enforcement still gives you a chance to cooperate. You might want to take it. Some people don't get a warning before officers show up. Claire folded her arms. You're not talking about some people. You're talking about us. Sandra's gaze slid back to her. I could almost see the assumptions ticking behind her eyes. Woman at home during the day. Husband in work boots. House with a truck in the driveway. Easy target. We all have to live by the same rules, Sandra said. This is just encouragement. Yeah, I asked. Encouragement usually doesn't come with handcuffs in the fine print. For a beat, the only sound was the wind pushing dried leaves down the street. A neighbor's garage door rumbled open across the way, then stopped halfway when they saw the 3 of us standing there. Sandra took one small step closer, just enough that the porch camera had to adjust. Next call won't be friendly, she murmured, and I won't be the only one standing here when it happens. She turned on her heel and walked back toward the end of the cul-de-sac posture-stiff blazer, bright against the gray sky. Her phone screen lit up in her hand as she went. Behind me, my own phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. A notification banner from the HOA portal slid across the screen. Woodvale. HOA portal. Compliance escalated to stage 2. I stared at it for a second longer than I meant to. Claire leaned in to read. She didn't even wait to get home, she said. She triggered it from the sidewalk. Yeah, I answered. The notice under my arm rustled when the wind shifted again. I guess we know what she's planning to use as a weapon, I said, and who she's aiming it at. The yellow sodium lamps clicked on one by one as the evening settled over Maple Ridge. By the time I reached the mailbox row, the whole street looked dipped in amber. Ed Maddox was already there sorting his mail the same way he always did, junk on the left side of his truck hood, bills on the right. He didn't even look up when he said, "Tell me that paper in your hand isn't what I think it is." I held up the folded notice. She stuck it on my door. Ed let out a dry laugh, more breath than sound. Let me guess the headline. He snatched it from me, unfolded it under the streetlight, and read aloud, Escalated enforcement. Police option. He tapped the words with a calloused fingertip. She did this before Jack, and she used cops then, too. That pulled my attention hard. When 2021, he said. He tucked the notice closer to the light. Lot 31. Young couple with a newborn. Baby cried for an hour. Normal stuff. Sandra labeled it a disturbance and called PD. Officers rolled up lights bouncing off every window on this street. I felt Claire walk up beside me before I heard her. She had changed into a gray sweatshirt and tied her hair back. Her face was calm, unreadable. What happened to the couple, she asked. Nothing, Ed said. PD took a 3-minute look around and cleared it, but the neighborhood didn't forget the lights. That's how Sandra works. She doesn't need cops to do anything. She just needs them to arrive. Claire exhaled slowly. She uses the badge as a prop. Exactly. Ed held up the notice. And this language HOA can't threaten police involvement. Only PD decides what a disturbance is. HOA isn't law enforcement. I rubbed a hand across my jaw. Sandra thinks she is. She wants people to think she is, Ed corrected. Big difference. The wind shifted, sending dried leaves skittering across the asphalt. Porch cameras clicked on up and down the street lenses, catching every movement. Funny how quiet neighborhoods turn into surveillance grids the minute trouble shows up. You said she did this before I pressed. How far did she go? Ed lifted his shoulders. Far enough the couple listed their house a month later. They couldn't handle the whispers. People assume the worst when they see police lights in a nice neighborhood. Claire's hands stayed in her pockets. She's counting on neighbors making assumptions about me. Ed shot her a thoughtful look. She's counting on you blinking. Folks who stay calm make her nervous. A deliberate click, click, click of heels echoed behind us. I didn't turn right away. I didn't need to. Evening. Sandra called, stepping into the spill of the streetlight. She had on the same pink blazer as earlier, folder under her arm, phone in hand, like she was waiting to type something official the second we breathed wrong. Out enjoying the air, Ed didn't bother turning fully toward her. "We're discussing your creative writing." "You mean the notice?" she asked lightly. "I thought clarity would be appreciated. Some homes need clearer boundaries." "That's not clarity," Ed said. "That's a threat you're not authorized to make." Sandra's smile didn't move. HOA can request law enforcement anytime it deems necessary. Our charter allows us to protect community peace. That includes proactive contact. Proactive isn't the same as threatening people with cops, I said. She dismissed me with the flick of her eyes, then focused on Claire. Really focused, like she'd just remembered who the notice was addressed to. "You look a little stressed," Sandra said sweetly. "These things can be overwhelming, but you can avoid any further escalation by simply complying. Complying with what Claire asked." Her tone stayed perfectly even. "With expectations," Sandra said. "With keeping things calm. Some homes struggle with that." I felt the words hit like a slow-rolling insult. Ed stepped forward half a foot. "You don't get to imply anything about what goes on in their home. You fabricated half that notice." Sandra ignored him. She angled her body so she was talking only to Claire now. "You should know if officers have to come out, it sticks to addresses. Sometimes names. Not everyone wants that kind of attention following them." Claire's eyes didn't flicker. "If the police want to see what's going on in my house, they can knock. They'll find us eating dinner or folding laundry." Sandra's smile tightened. She'd expected fear. She got steel wrapped in quiet. "Well," she said softly, "your wife better comply tonight, Jack. I'd hate to escalate this any further." She turned before I could reply, heels ticking a steady beat as she walked away. Under the yellow glow, she looked like a caution sign marching down the sidewalk. I reached for my phone when it vibrated. A new email slid across the lock screen. "Final warning. Action will be taken tonight." I exhaled through my teeth. Claire read it over my shoulder. "She's accelerating." "No," Ed said. "She's baiting, and she wants Claire on the hook." I closed the email and stared down the length of the street where Sandra disappeared into the dark. "She just made this official," I said, "and she wants it happening before midnight." At 7:14 p.m., the subject line hit my inbox like a little red hammer. From President at Woodvale HOA. Org, subject final warning. Action will be taken tonight. Time 19:14 MT. The laptop screen painted the kitchen in cold blue light. Overhead, the LED strips hummed softly, too bright, too clean for the words I was reading. Claire leaned on the opposite side of the island arms, folded eyes on the screen. "She actually time-stamped it," I said. "Like an appointment." Claire's voice was flat. That's how she thinks. The email was short. No fluff, no fake warmth. Continued non-compliance has forced the association to move to the next stage of enforcement. Action will be taken tonight. Sandra Bishop, President, Woodvale, HOA. No details, no definition, just action. I scrolled down looking for an attachment, a clause, anything that could be pinned down. There was nothing but the HOA logo and a footer about community harmony. Claire straightened and walked to the pantry. For a second, I thought she needed air. Instead, she reached up to the top shelf and brought down a narrow black case I had never seen before. She set it on the table between us and flicked the latches open. Inside was a small body cam no bigger than a matchbox with a clip on the back and a single lens staring up at the ceiling. "Since when do we own that?" I asked. "We don't," she said. "I do." She lifted it out with steady fingers and plugged a short cable into the laptop. A tiny green LED blinked to life. "You've had that this whole time?" I asked. "I usually don't need it at home," she said. "Tonight is different." The way she said usually made something tighten in my chest. There were parts of her job I'd never asked about, lines we both understood were better left vague. Seeing that camera on our kitchen table made those lines feel closer. "You trust her to keep this about fine?" she asked. "No," I said. "I trust her to dial 3 numbers and tell a story." She nodded once. "Then we make sure our story is better." She crossed to the built-in desk by the window, pulled open the bottom drawer, and slid out a thick navy binder. It landed on the table with a soft thud. "I've been pulling copies of everything she sent," Claire said. "Ours and other people's. Screenshots, dates, printouts." Ed gave me his folder from 2021. I blinked. "When?" "Over the last year," she said. Every time Sandra shifted language from suggestion to enforcement, I printed it. She opened the binder. Inside, page protectors glared under the lights, each one holding an email, a notice, a snippet from the HOA portal. Handwritten notes lined the margins, dates, arrows, question marks. "You kept all this," I said. "She escalates patterns," Claire said. "I don't like patterns being only in her favor." My phone buzzed on the counter. Voicemail icon. I hit play on speaker. Ed's voice crackled through low and steady. "Jack, it's me. Don't know if you're home, but listen, if she calls the cops, don't react. Don't step outside yelling. Don't give her footage she can twist. Let officers talk first. You document everything. She wants a scene. Don't give her one." The message ended. The room felt smaller. The porch camera clicked in the hallway, sharp mechanical. Claire's eyes cut to the tablet mounted by the fridge. The camera feed was already up 4 tiles showing different angles. Front porch, driveway, side yard, backyard. In the driveway, tile under the pale wash of the streetlight, Sandra Bishop stood at the edge of our lawn, phone held at chest height, camera facing the house. Her HOA folder was tucked under her arm like a shield. Claire touched the screen, zooming in. The tablet's tiny speakers carried Sandra's voice in a thin, tinny line. "Just been so loud lately," Sandra was saying to her phone or to whoever was on the other end. Doors slamming, things thrown. "I'm really worried. She's acting suspicious. She's building a record," I said. "For whoever she's talking to." "Or whoever's watching her," Feed Claire replied. I frowned. Feed Claire pointed. At the top of Sandra's phone screen, a little red dot glowed next to the word live. "You've got to be kidding," I muttered. "She's streaming our driveway. She wants anyone scrolling to think something's wrong here," Claire said quietly. "It makes pressure on the back end. More calls, more concerned residents." We watched as Sandra took a few deliberate steps closer to the curb, angling herself so our dark front windows were always in frame behind her. She spoke louder now, like she wanted microphones to catch every word. "I just hope the officers get here before something happens," she said. "You never know what someone like her might do, someone like who I asked the screen." Claire's jaw flexed. She didn't answer, but she didn't have to. A faint double beep sounded from the garage. At first, I thought it was the dryer. Then it came again, higher clipped, followed by a burst of static. I walked to the interior garage door and pushed it open. The cool, oil-scented air hit me. On the workbench between a stack of spark plugs and an old socket sat my scanner lit up orange display pulsing. I kept it tuned to Maple Ridge PD out of habit. Tonight, it felt like a warning siren. The speaker crackled. "Maple Ridge Dispatch Unit 32, copy a domestic disturbance," a voice said. "Caller reports ongoing argument, possible objects thrown. Address is 44, Maple Ridge Court. Complainant indicates prior history, HOA involved." Another beep. Unit 32 copies a second voice answered. "En route." I stared at the display. 19:26 MIDI. 12 minutes after the email. Karen didn't just bluff, I thought. She called. Jack Claire's voice floated from the kitchen. "What is it?" I stepped back inside, leaving the garage door open so the scanner's idle hiss could follow me. "She did it," I said. Scanner just lit up. They dispatched MRPD to domestic disturbance at 44. HOA in the notes. Claire's mouth pressed into a hard line. So now it's not just a threat on paper. On the tablet, Sandra was still at the edge of our lawn, hand to her chest as if rehearsing concern. "I just pray everything is okay in there," she said for the benefit of whoever was watching. "I've heard yelling for weeks." We both knew she hadn't. I picked up the body cam from the table. The little LED blinked steady, now waiting. "Put it on," I said. She clipped it to the collar of her sweatshirt, the lens centered below her throat. It looked out of place in our kitchen, like it belonged under harsher lights. Ed's voicemail echoed in my head. "Don't react. Don't give her a scene." The house felt too quiet. The clock over the stove ticked louder than it had all year. Then, from down the street, the low thrum of an engine. A faint whoop of a siren cut short. Blue strobes flickered briefly across the back wall, then vanished as the car turned into our court. A heartbeat later, red and blue lights splashed full across the kitchen window, staining the glass in alternating stripes. I didn't have to look to know they'd stopped out front. "They're here," I said. The porch camera clicked again. The knock came first, 2 muted taps, almost polite. Then the doorbell chimed ding-dong, too bright, too cheerful, for what was standing on my porch. The tablet on the counter lit up as the porch camera clicked awake. 21:03:17. Right on schedule for a setup. I felt Claire beside me, steady as a rail. Her body cam blinked a calm, cold blue on her collar like it was breathing for her. "You ready?" I whispered. She nodded once. "Let's get this right." I opened the door. 2 officers stood under the porch light, their uniforms catching flashes of blue from the cruiser idling at the curb. Their body cams gave a soft beep as the recording timestamp logged in. The taller officer stepped forward. "Evening. Officer Ruiz, Maple Ridge, PD. This is Officer Palmer." He checked his screen. "We're responding to a disturbance reported by Bishop Sandra." My jaw tightened. There it was, the full T1 offense spoken plainly on my porch. Behind their shoulders on the sidewalk, Karen held her phone up like she was filming a documentary. The red live icon glowed on her screen. She angled herself so our house sat dramatically behind her porch light, haloing her like she wanted viewers to believe she was the brave one. I kept my hands visible. "Thanks for coming." "What disturbance did she report?" Palmer flipped his notepad. Caller claimed yelling objects thrown possible domestic issue. Said she heard the wife screaming. Mentioned prior incidents. "There are no prior incidents," I said. "None." Ruiz nodded. "We checked. Nothing on record for this address." Claire stepped forward slightly, voice even. "Officers, we're fine. No yelling, no throwing, no disturbance. We were reviewing some HOA emails." From the sidewalk, Karen's voice cut in loud, shaky performative. "Officer, she's lying. She was screaming. I heard it. I recorded some of it, maybe check him first." Ruiz didn't turn around. "Ma'am, stay on the sidewalk for now." Karen scoffed loudly for her stream. "She's terrified. Look at her, she's barely talking." Claire's chin rose a half inch. "I'm talking to the officers, Sandra. You're talking to your audience." That shut Karen up for exactly 2 seconds. Ruiz cleared his throat. "Ma'am," he looked at Claire. "Are you safe in this home?" "Yes," she said. "Has he threatened you at any point tonight?" "No," she said again. "We're not the ones creating a disturbance." Palmer's body cam gave a soft double beep, marking the entry. I saw it, just a flicker in both officers' eyes, the recalculation. The mismatch between Karen's frantic streaming and Claire's quiet, near-professional composure. Palmer pointed at her collar. "That recording?" "Yes," Claire said. "And we have porch camera audio if you'd like it." Ruiz shifted his stance. "All right. But given the nature of the call, I'll need to ask a few more." Karen stepped closer, still filming. "Officer, arrest them. She's unstable. I've heard this before. She's hiding it well now." Ruiz turned his head. "Ma'am, return to the sidewalk. Now." But Karen didn't hear him. She was too busy narrating for her live stream. "You see, the officers are hesitating. This is exactly what I warned the board officers," Claire said softly, cutting through Karen's noise. "I'd like to request a supervisor review of this call." Ruiz blinked. "You want a supervisor on scene?" "Yes," she said. "Given the caller's behavior and her history with reports, I want every part of this documented." Something in Ruiz's expression shifted again, another recalibration. "Copy that," he said. He keyed his radio. "Dispatch 3-2, requesting a supervisor to 44 Maple Ridge for review." Karen threw her free hand up dramatically. "A supervisor?" "Why, she's dangerous." Claire's posture didn't change. Still calm. Still too calm, and that's exactly what Karen misread. She thought calm meant fear. She thought quiet meant breakable. She thought my wife was the perfect target. A second cruiser turned into the court lights off engine low. The door opened and Supervisor Harper stepped out, a man built like an old oak post, steady and weathered. Ruiz straightened. "Sergeant." Harper walked up the path, scanning everything: the cruiser, the porch, the body cams, the HOA notice still taped inside our sidelight window. His gaze landed on Claire. He stopped. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "I need to verify something." Karen gasped theatrically. "Finally, someone who gets it." Harper ignored her. His eyes flicked from Claire's body cam to her stance, to the tiny binder of documents visible on the console behind us. Then his expression tightened with recognition, not of the neighborhood, not of us, but of her. "Sir," he said to Ruiz without taking his eyes off Claire, "this needs deeper clarification. Inside." Supervisor Harper stepped past the threshold like he'd done it 1,000 times, but never casually. Ruiz and Palmer followed, easing the door almost shut behind them, leaving just enough space for the porch camera to keep everyone in frame. Outside, Karen's voice carried in jagged bursts through the crack. "They're intimidating the HOA president," she yelled. "This is retaliation." Her phone was still on live. She had no idea she was streaming her own crosshairs. Harper nodded toward the living room. "Let's move in there," he said. We stepped into the glow of the recessed lights. The laptop still sat on the kitchen island, the HOA email open. The tablet with the camera feeds lay beside it, showing 4 small boxes, porch, driveway, yard, street. Sandra paced just at the edge of the curb, occasionally whipping her phone back toward our door for the audience. Harper's gaze swept the room once. His eyes landed on the body cam clipped to Claire's collar, then on the navy binder on the coffee table. He reached to the radio on his shoulder. "Dispatch Supervisor Harper on 44 Maple Ridge," he said. "Do you still have the call audio pulled up?" A crackle. Then a voice replied, "Affirmative, Sergeant." "I want the transcript log sent to my tablet," he said, "and flag the recording for review." He pulled a department tablet from his belt case thumbprint, unlocking it. Lines of text populated the screen. Dispatch timestamps Notefield's call. Origin. "Okay," he murmured. "Let's line this up." He looked at Ruiz. "You logged arrival at 2103. "Yes, Sergeant." Harper nodded, tapping the tablet. "Caller reports ongoing screaming dishes, breaking threats. Says it's been escalating for weeks. You hear anything when you pulled up at the court?" "No," Palmer said. Street was quiet. No voices, no sounds from the house. Harper turned the tablet so Claire could see. "Ma'am, here's the call as it was reported," he said. "I want to compare it with what your system actually recorded." Claire walked to the tablet on the counter. Her fingers moved quickly, pulling up the porch camera feed from the last half hour. She tapped back to 2045, then scrubbed forward in short bursts. Ambient noise. Crickets. A passing car. The occasional click of our own door. Then Sandra's voice outside at 2102. "I'm really worried," she said on the feed, performative and clear. "She's acting suspicious." Claire hit pause. "That's the first time her voice appears tonight," she said. "No one yelling, no dishes, no threats. Just her." Harper's jaw tightened. "Can you export that clip?" "Yes." She tapped through a menu. "Do you want it emailed to the department? Send it to the address in this field," he said, showing her the tablet. and note the exact time from your system. Outside, Karen's voice spiked again, muffled by the closed door. If anything happens to me, it's on record. They're trying to silence me. Ruiz rolled his eyes subtly, but Harper didn't look away from the logs. Mr. Hale. Harper said, "Can I see the email she sent earlier?" I turned the laptop so it faced him. The subject line glared in bold. Final warning. Action will be taken tonight. Time, 19:14 Marti. Harper read it once, twice. Action will be taken tonight, he repeated. No specifics, no allegation of a crime, just a threat of escalation. Claire flipped open the binder and slid a plastic sleeve toward him. She's been inching toward that language for a year, she said. Every month, she swaps out suggested for required, friendly reminder for enforcement. Tonight is the first time she dragged law enforcement into it explicitly. Inside the sleeve were printed notices, each one stamped with a date. Karen's tone hardened with every page. Handwritten notes in the margin showed Claire had been tracking that creep step by step. "You kept all of this?" Ruiz asked quietly. Claire shrugged. "I don't like weaponized procedures." Harper scanned a few more pages, then glanced up at her. "Ms. Hale," he said slowly, "I need to confirm something." He pulled up a different screen on his tablet, one that required a passcode. A credential roster loaded a list of names and ID numbers under a heading that made my stomach dip. MRPD, Federal Liaison Contacts. His finger slid down the list till it stopped. He turned the tablet just enough that Claire could read. "Claire Hale," he said. "Is this your ID number?" Her eyes flicked to the line, then back to his. "Yes, Sergeant." He nodded once. No surprise, no flare of recognition now. Just confirmation. He knew exactly who she was. Karen, on the porch, kept narrating like she was auditioning for a true crime podcast. "They've dragged them inside," she told her viewers. "I don't know what they're doing, but this is clearly intimidation of the HOA. Someone needs to clip this for the board." Harper set the tablet down carefully. "Here's the issue," he said, voice level. "The call we received describes weeks of screaming and violence. Your cameras record none of that. Your neighbors haven't reported it. And this email," he tapped the laptop, "reads more like premeditation than concern." Claire closed the binder softly. "She escalates to control people," she said. "Tonight, she used you to try it on me." For the first time all evening, something like hope edged past the pressure in my chest. Someone in uniform was actually drawing the lines out loud. Finally, someone fought back, I thought. Harper turned to Ruiz and Palmer. "Gentlemen, you satisfied there's no domestic here?" "Yes," Sergeant Ruiz said. "House is quiet. Stories are consistent. No signs of distress." "All right." Harper straightened. "Let's address the actual disturbance." He opened the door. Cool, night air spilled in along with Karen's voice at full volume. And then he blocked the camera and Ms. Bishop Harper said, stepping onto the porch, "I'm Sergeant Harper with Maple Ridge PD." Karen swung the phone toward him. "Good. Maybe you can tell them they can't keep me out. I'm the HOA president. I'm responsible for this community's safety." Harper's face stayed unreadable. "You're the one who placed the call tonight?" "Yes," she said, chin high. "Someone had to." She was screaming. "Things were breaking. I told the dispatcher there was a pattern." Harper nodded slowly. "We've reviewed your statements and compared them with on-site observations and recorded audio from this address." She blinked. "Okay." And no such sounds exist," he said. "No screaming, no objects thrown, no prior complaints on record from this house. What we do have is an email you sent promising action tonight and a live stream where you describe a situation that isn't happening." He stepped closer, not menacing, just unavoidable. "Ms. Bishop," he said flatly, "you filed a knowingly false emergency report." For the first time since sunset, Karen's mouth opened without a script behind it. That's ridiculous," she stammered. I reported what I believed. You can't accuse the HOA president of—" "You're not being accused because of your title," Harper said. You're being warned because of your choices." Her face went red under the porch light. "I'll take this to the HOA board," she snapped, lifting her phone like a badge. "I outrank all of you." The HOA clubhouse was packed hot and too bright. Fluorescent tubes buzzed overhead, fighting with the low rumble of neighbors settling into folding chairs. A cardboard sign on the door read, "Emergency Session. Members Only." Tonight, emergency meant us. Karen stood at the front under the humming lights gavel in one hand, mic in the other. Behind her, the projector showed the HOA logo and 3 big words, "Emergency Session." Lot 44. "This meeting will come to order," she said. "The threat from Lot 44 must be addressed." That word again, threat. Claire and I sat halfway down the center aisle. Harper leaned against the side wall in uniform, not saying a word. Ruiz and Palmer had slipped into chairs by the exit, arms crossed, eyes sharp. People noticed. Conversations dimmed. "As many of you know," Karen went on last week, "I was forced to call law enforcement to Lot 44 because of screaming objects being thrown and what sounded like domestic violence. I did this to protect every family in this community." A few heads turned our way. No one glared, they just looked uneasy. Claire slid a printed sheet onto the flimsy table in front of us. The heading was in bold black, "MRPD, Incident Number 234978. Call for service log." Her fingertip rested on the timeline. Instead of taking responsibility, Karen said the residents of Lot 44 have chosen to attack the HOA and smear my name online. Her behavior forced me to call PD. I had no choice. There it was, straight from her mouth. I raised my hand. "Question for the board." Karen's smile thinned. "Comments after board statements. Mr. Hale." Claire didn't wait. "Sergeant Harper," she said. Voice low but clear, would now be a good time to address Incident 23-4978. The whole room turned to Harper. He pushed off the wall and walked toward the front body cam, light steady. "I've been asked to explain the law enforcement side of that call," he said. Sergeant Karen cut in. "This is an HOA hearing. We appreciate your presence, but you involved Maple Ridge PD when you dialed 911, Ms. Bishop Harper said. That gives us standing to correct the record." The room quieted fast. Harper set a small speaker on the board table. "First, you'll hear the emergency call we received," he said. "Then, we'll compare it to what actually happened at Lot 44. He pressed play. Maple Ridge 911. "What's your emergency?" Karen's voice came through the speaker, high and urgent. "It's happening again at Lot 44. Screaming things breaking, I'm afraid for the wife. They've been unstable for weeks. Somebody needs to intervene." A chair squeaked loudly in the back, then everything went still again. Harper clicked the speaker off. "That is what was reported," he said. He held up the printed log Claire had brought. "Dispatch records show no prior calls from this address, no history of violence, no independent complaints from any other home. Responding officers found a quiet house and cooperative residents." He nodded to Claire. "Now the Hale family's porch camera from that same time frame." Claire stood and walked to the projector cart, tablet in hand. A cable clicked into place. The slide changed to a view of our front porch at night. Timestamp running along the bottom. Crickets in the background. No yelling, no glass, nothing. Then on screen, Karen walked into frame, phone up, talking to her live stream. "I'm really worried," Screen Karen said. "She's acting suspicious." That was all. A low murmur moved through the chairs. Additionally, Harper said officer body cam shows no raised voices inside the home, no damaged property, and no indication of ongoing domestic issues. Everything on that call came from one person. He set the log down in front of the board. "Because of that gap incident, 23-4978 is under review as a possible false emergency report." The word false landed like a brick. The man in a work jacket near the back frowned. "Sandra, it was quiet that night," he said. "My living room faces their place. If there was a war, I missed it." A woman by the coffee urn added, "The only yelling I've heard is in your videos." Karen's cheeks flushed. I reported what I believed she said sharply. You can't punish a homeowner for being careful. I am not on trial. They are. Her behavior forced me to act. Claire kept her eyes on her. You emailed us at 1914, she said, promising, action will be taken tonight. You escalated letters all year. The action turned out to be police at our door. That's not caution, that's pressure. Several heads nodded now, slow and heavy. Harper didn't raise his voice. Ms. Bishop. Nobody here is handing down sentences, he said. But deliberately inflating an emergency to get officers at someone's door is serious. That review isn't a formality. For the first time all evening, Karen seemed to feel alone up front. The board members stared at the table. The room's weight had shifted. She gripped her phone tighter, turning back to the crowd and the glowing lens. You all think I'm the problem, she shouted. You have no idea who you've let move into Lot 44. She pointed straight at Claire. You think she's just some quiet wife with a binder? Karen said, voice shaking now more panic than authority. Fine. If you're going to smear me, then I'll reveal who your wife really is. The clubhouse went dead silent. On the screen behind her, Karen's own face was frozen mid-lie. And still filming, she was about to kick open a door she didn't understand at all. For a second, it looked like the room might actually tilt toward her. Karen stood under the humming lights, cheeks flushed, phone still pointed at the crowd and the board table. Her eyes glittered with a strange mix of panic and triumph. You think I'm the villain here, she shouted. You have no idea who you've let move into Lot 44. She isn't some innocent wife. She's hiding who she really is from all of you. A few people shifted uneasily. The board members stared down at their papers like they wished they were anywhere else. Karen jabbed a finger in our direction. If you're going to smear me, then fine. I'll reveal who your wife really is. The room sucked in a breath. Claire stood up before she could say another word. Ms. Bishop. Claire said, her voice calm but edged with steel. You're not qualified to speak to my identity or my role. Karen's mouth clicked shut like someone had hit mute on her live stream. Claire turned facing the board and the rows of folding chairs. If my background is relevant to your concerns, she said, I'll clarify it myself. Harper shifted near the wall, sliding a thin folder forward on the table. A federal seal on the front caught the fluorescent light and threw a small, sharp reflection against the whiteboard. I saw the letters in that shine FBI ghosted in reverse. Ms. Hale, the board president, said carefully, You don't have to, I know, Claire replied, but we're not the ones hiding tonight. She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a slim leather wallet. No drama, no flourish, just a practiced motion she'd clearly done thousands of times somewhere else. She opened it and held it up so the board and the first few rows could see. Claire Hale, she said. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Field Director. You could feel the word director run through the room like a low electric current. The nearest board member leaned in involuntarily, eyes locked on the badge and credentials. Harper stepped closer, glancing only long enough to confirm what he'd already known. Behind us, someone whispered, You're kidding, under their breath. Karen let out a short, strangled laugh. This is ridiculous, she said. You're just trying to scare people with some government act. That could be fake. Harper's tone went even flatter. It's not fake. Ms. Bishop, he said. Her name's on our liaison roster. I verified it before I stepped in your clubhouse tonight. He opened the folder in front of him. The FBI seal stared up from the first page in dark official ink. This, he said, tapping the header, is Memorandum 23-DFD-711. It outlines how false emergency reports targeting identified federal personnel are handled. A hush fell heavy and absolute. He didn't read the whole thing. He didn't have to. In short, Harper continued using local law enforcement as leverage against federal officers or their families with knowingly false claims can trigger both state and federal review. It is not a game, and it is not covered by HOA bylaws. Every eye in the room swung from the seal to Karen. Karen's hand shook just enough to make her phone wobble. The red live icon jittered on the wall behind her. You tricked us, she blurted. You tricked this entire neighborhood. You moved in undercover. You brought federal power into a private community. That's entrapment or something." Claire's expression didn't change. "We bought a house," she said. "We pay dues. We mow our lawn. You chose to weaponize a position you barely understood against people you never bothered to know." A low murmur rolled through the chairs. "You think this is fair?" Karen demanded, whipping her phone toward the crowd. "She's the one with the real power. I just enforce standards. Now, you're all going to side with her because she's federal." An older man in a flannel jacket stood up in the back. "No," he said. "We're siding with her because she didn't call 911 and lie." A few people snapped their fingers in agreement. Somebody else muttered. Finally, someone fought back loud enough for half the room to hear. The phrase hung there simple and solid. The board president cleared his throat, looking like someone had pulled his chair out from under him and handed him a microphone instead. "Ms. Bishop, he said you involved law enforcement under false pretenses. You escalated against a homeowner without board consent, and you did it after sending an email promising action against them." That email was internal strategy, she shot back. "You can't punish initiative. We're not punishing initiative," he said. "We're responding to abuse." He glanced at the other board members. "Given what we've seen and heard tonight, I'm calling an immediate vote on your status as president." Karen's grip on her phone tightened. "You don't have the authority to remove me on the spot," she snapped. "I am the board." "No," he said quietly. "We are." Hands went up around the table. 1, 2, 3 to 4. Every board member present. All in favor of suspending Ms. Bishop from her duties as HOA president, pending legal review and member vote, the president said. "Aye" came the replies, overlapping certain. He turned back to her. "Motion carries. Effective immediately. You are suspended from your position and barred from acting on behalf of the HOA in any enforcement matter." Karen's face went blank for a heartbeat, then flushed a furious red. "You can't do this," she whispered. "You can't just take everything I built and hand it to them. No one's handing us anything I said. We just want you to stop turning neighbors into targets." For a moment, she looked less like the queen of bylaws and more like someone who'd just realized the script in her hands wasn't going to save her. A woman in the second row raised her hand, voice small but clear. "So, what happens next?" she asked. "To the HOA. To us. To them." The question hung in the air like a door standing half open. The answer would have to wait for morning. By sunrise, Maple Ridge felt lighter. The kind of morning where the chill lifts just enough for the smell of wet grass to settle across the park, and you can hear the creek behind the clubhouse clicking over the rocks. I walked down the sidewalk with a fresh cup of coffee steam rising into the cool air. After everything that had happened, I didn't know what I expected to find. What I didn't expect was the crowd. Half a dozen neighbors already stood bunched around the HOA bulletin board. Someone had wiped the glass clean, an event rare enough to count as a small miracle. But it was the new sheet of paper in the center that froze everyone in place. Revised Emergency Reporting Protocol, MRPD approved. Below it, bold lines, no false calls. Community first. I felt the breath slip out of me, quiet slow like a release valve finally turning. Ed Maddox appeared from behind me, travel thermos under his arm. "Well, look at that," he muttered. "Took 'em years to put in writing what we kept yelling at every annual meeting." "This fixes a lot more than a meeting," I said. A couple to our left leaned in, whispering. "She used the cops to bully people," a man in flannel said. Finally, someone fought back. That line, the value line, hung in the air like a verdict the whole neighborhood had been waiting to say out loud. Ed nodded toward the notice. "Think this'll stick?" "It has to," I said. "If the board backslides now, the police won't tolerate it." And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I actually believed that. Across the park, Claire spoke quietly with Harper. She stood in a simple jacket, hands tucked into her pockets. Nothing about her posture suggesting authority. You wouldn't guess she'd been the center of last night's showdown. Harper held a folder under one arm, but didn't open it. He didn't have to. Whatever needed to be said had already been said in the clubhouse. I walked over. Ed followed slowly, giving us space. Board made it official, I asked Harper. First thing this morning, he said. Suspension isn't temporary. She's barred from any enforcement activity. No committees, no authority, nothing. He kept his tone flat professional, but even he couldn't hide the relief. Claire watched a child run toward the swing's hoodie bouncing behind him. The board looked scared, she said. Like they realized the backlash wasn't about us. It was about years of letting one person run wild. People mistake noise for leadership, Harper replied. Last night proved the difference. Ed stepped closer. You two changed the whole neighborhood, he said, just by refusing to get pushed. Claire shook her head. No, we just made the truth louder than the lie, and that Ed said is more than anyone else ever managed. A couple of residents approached hesitant at first. One elderly woman adjusted her scarf and cleared her throat. I wanted to apologize, she said to Claire. We thought you were, well, just private. We didn't know what she was doing behind the scenes. Claire didn't flinch. Most people don't know, she said gently. That's how people like her get away with it. The woman nodded, eyes shining a little. Thank you for stopping it. Harper checked his watch. We'll be updating our own dispatch protocols next month, he said. No more HOA suggestions, triggering automatic responses without review. Yesterday made that clear. I caught his eye. You sticking around here today? Just long enough to make sure things stay calm, he said. After that, this place doesn't need me anymore. A nearby dad in a work jacket laughed. Feels strange not worrying about getting a disturbance notice for running a lawnmower. That's the point, I said. Normal shouldn't feel dangerous. We drifted back toward the park entrance. The dew on the grass sparkled as the sun rose higher, catching on shoes and dog leashes and stroller wheels. Ordinary things again. On the clubhouse wall, maintenance workers were removing Karen's old laminated charts, noise thresholds, lawn compliance windows, photo point inspection diagrams. They peeled off like brittle skin. Claire exhaled slowly. Feels like someone lifted a tarp off the whole neighborhood. It'll take time, Harper said. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. But it does rebuild, I said. We walked home together, the four of us shifting into a quiet, easy silence. By the time we reached Maple Ridge Court, the street looked like it had reclaimed itself. Kids chalking sidewalks, someone hosing off their driveway porch flags, catching the breeze. No patrol cars, no watchers, no phone cameras. Just life. At our front door, the porch camera adjusted to the sunlight with a soft, familiar click. The same sound that had once meant accusation surveillance and pressure. Now it was just a device doing its job. Claire slid her hand along the railing. You ready for quiet days again? She asked. I lifted my coffee and looked at the street, clean, open, calm. More than ready. She smiled, small but real. Then let's protect this. The porch camera clicked again. Night mode, testing its shift for later, as if noting officially that the storm had passed. And for the first time in a long time, Maple Ridge felt like a place where the rules finally protected the people who lived under them. A place where quiet wasn't suspicious. A place where justice left an echo.